Don't turn around. It's been 2 hours. The knocking on my front door and the faint scraping at my window haven't stopped. Just some stupid possums, I whispered to myself, gripping my blanket tightly. I refused to look behind me. Don't turn around. I glanced at the clock. 3 a.m. For God's sake, just let me sleep, I muttered under my breath. The knocking continued, steady and relentless, like a slow drip of water driving me insane. My mind began conjuring all sorts of terrifying possibilities. Decayed hands tapping on the glass, something rotting and desperate trying to claw its way inside, or a crazed stranger toying with me for fun. Or maybe it was just nothing. But what if it was someone in real need of help? No, I thought, shaking my head. If it was someone needing help, they'd say something. They wouldn't just stand there knocking. Don't turn around. I buried my head in my pillow, trying to drown out the noise. But then a new sound reached my ears, faint, like something dragging across the glass. It reminded me of the sound of windshield wipers, but slower. My breath hitched. Or a hand. I whispered to myself, a shiver running down my spine. Don't turn around. I couldn't take it anymore. My heart pounded in my chest as I sat up in bed. I needed to know. My imagination was worse than whatever might actually be out there. I turned, and I saw it. The window. Outside my window was a man. His face was pale, his body pressed against the glass. His eyes were wide, pleading, and his lips moved as if he was trying to say something. His breath fogged the window as his hand weakly tapped against the glass. Blood smeared the pane where his hand had been, leaving streaks behind. My stomach churned. I wanted to scream, but the sound caught in my throat. And then, I noticed it. Words scrawled across the glass in red, barely legible in the faint moonlight. You could have saved him. The door. Behind me, I heard the front door creak open. I froze, unable to move, my body trembling. Tears streamed down my face as a voice, low and cold, whispered directly into my ear. Don't turn around. Story 2. My daughter learned to count. Last night, my daughter woke me up at 11:50 p.m. My wife and I had just brought her home from a friend's birthday party, tucked her into bed, and thought that was the end of our night. My wife went to our room to read, and I fell asleep on the couch after trying to watch Brave with her. Daddy, she whispered, tugging on my sleeve. Guess how old I'll be next month? I don't know, princess, I mumbled groggily, reaching for my glasses. How old? She smiled, her eyes twinkling in the dim light, and held up 4 fingers. Something's not right. At first, I chuckled, thinking she was just being playful. 4. That's right, I said, reaching out to ruffle her hair. But as I looked closer, my amusement faded. The fingers she held up weren't hers. The proportions were wrong, longer, thinner, with jagged nails that didn't match her soft, small hands. The skin was pale and cold, a stark contrast to her rosy complexion. I blinked, thinking I was still half asleep. Honey, where did you? Before I could finish, she giggled and scampered off to her room, leaving me sitting there, stunned. The morning after. Now it's 7:30 a.m. My wife and I have been sitting with her for hours, trying to get her to explain. Sweetie, my wife said gently, kneeling in front of her. Can you tell Mommy where you got those fingers? They're mine, she said cheerfully, as if we'd asked her what her favorite color was. No, honey, I pressed, my voice shaking. Those aren't your fingers. Tell us the truth. Did someone give them to you? Did you take them from somewhere? She just giggled again and shook her head. I didn't take them. They came to me. Came to you? What does that mean? My wife asked, her voice rising with panic. They came to play, she said matter-of-factly, but they don't need their fingers anymore, so I kept them. The basement. A chill ran down my spine. Who's they, sweetie? Who are you talking about? She didn't answer. Instead, she pointed toward the basement door. No, my wife said immediately, pulling our daughter closer. She's just making things up. But I couldn't let it go. Grabbing a flashlight, I opened the basement door and descended the creaky stairs. The smell hit me first, a damp, metallic odor that clung to the air. The beam of my flashlight cut through the darkness, revealing nothing out of the ordinary at first. Old furniture, storage boxes, and cobwebs. Then, in the far corner, I saw them. Four pale figures huddled together, their bodies contorted as if frozen mid-movement. Their faces were blank, literally blank, with smooth, featureless skin where their eyes, nose, and mouth should have been. And each of them was missing a hand. The whisper. Before I could move, I heard a soft whisper behind me. Guess how old I'll be next month? I didn't turn around. Story 3 thumbs up. The new phone. After weeks of relentless work, I finally treated myself to a brand new phone. Sleek, shiny, and packed with features. It was everything I'd been dreaming of. As soon as I got home, I unboxed it, admiring its smooth design and flawless screen. Naturally, I wanted to test it out right away. Why not call the landline? I thought. Living alone, I didn't need to worry about disturbing anyone, and it seemed like a good way to test the call clarity. I dialed my home's landline number, holding the phone up to my ear as it rang once, twice. Hello? My breath caught. Someone answered. The voice. The voice was mine. It wasn't just similar. It was identical, down to the tone, the rhythm, and even the slight rasp I had whenever I spoke on the phone. Hello? I repeated, more tentatively this time. There was a pause on the other end. Then, the voice replied, "Oh, hi." My stomach churned. The casual familiarity in their tone sent a shiver down my spine. "Who is this?" I asked, forcing my voice to stay steady. "You know who it is," the voice said, a faint chuckle following. I hung up, trying to rationalize. I sat there for a few minutes, staring at my new phone. "It's a glitch," I whispered to myself. "Some sort of weird echo or interference." I picked up my landline and checked the recent call log. Sure enough, the call had come from my own mobile number. My hands trembled as I held the phone. It didn't make sense. I was the only one in the house. No one else had access to my new phone. It hadn't even been in my possession for more than an hour. Just a tech issue, I told myself again. But deep down, I wasn't convinced. The second call. A few hours passed. I tried to distract myself with TV, but my thoughts kept drifting back to the call. Then, my new phone rang. The caller ID displayed my landline number. I hesitated, my heart pounding in my chest. Slowly, I pressed answer and raised the phone to my ear. "Hello?" Silence. And then, my voice came through the line, low and deliberate. "You shouldn't have called." I dropped the phone. The shadows. I stumbled back, my mind racing. Was someone in my house? Were they using my phones to mess with me? Grabbing a kitchen knife for protection, I searched the entire house. Room by room, I checked every corner, every closet, every possible hiding spot. But there was no one. Finally, I returned to the living room. My landline sat on the coffee table, its receiver slightly off the hook. As I reached to place it back, I noticed something in the reflection of the dark TV screen. A figure stood behind me, barely visible in the dim light. I spun around, but there was nothing there. The final message. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed on the couch, every light in the house turned on, clutching my new phone as if it could protect me. At 3:33 a.m., the phone buzzed in my hand. A new text message. It was from my own number. The message read, "Stop calling yourself. You won't like the answer." Story 4, thumbs up. It's already hiding. Do you ever find yourself double-checking the windows in your house at night, ensuring every lock is secure? Even if you know they were locked earlier, you feel the need to check again. Do you glance behind the door of your room before you go to bed, imagining something might be standing there, just out of sight? And when you open your closet, do you feel the urge to push aside the hanging clothes, parting them like curtains on a stage, just to make sure there's nothing or no one waiting for you in the shadows? At night, lying in bed, when the unease becomes unbearable, do you ever lean over and peek under it, holding your breath as your eyes adjust to the darkness? What about in the bathroom? Before stepping into the shower, do you hesitate, your hand lingering on the curtain? You know you'll have to pull it back eventually, but your heart pounds as if you're bracing for something, or someone, to be there. And then there's that other feeling. You know the one. The sensation of being watched. It's faint at first, easy to dismiss as your imagination, but then it grows. You feel it pressing against you, an invisible presence behind you, its eyes fixed on your every move. Your breathing quickens. You tell yourself to stop. Don't be ridiculous, you whisper, but you still glance over your shoulder, scanning the empty room. Nothing. But the feeling doesn't go away, does it? It lingers. Something is there. You tell yourself checking helps, that it makes you safer, gives you peace of mind. But let me tell you something. It's a lie. The truth. You see, when you look, it's already hiding. It knows you're looking. It feels your eyes searching for it. And the moment you turn toward it, it's already gone. Slipping into the shadows, curling into the corners where your gaze can't follow. You might think you're alone, but you're not. Because it's patient. It's clever. It waits. You check under the bed. It's behind the curtain. You yank back the curtain. It's already in the closet. You push aside the clothes in the closet. It's right behind the door. And when you've exhausted yourself, when you've convinced yourself there's nothing there, it's closer than ever. The end game. The worst part? It's not that you can't find it. It's that one day, you'll stop looking. Maybe it'll be because you're too tired, or because you've told yourself you've grown out of your fears. Maybe you'll laugh it off, calling it childish paranoia. And that's when it will strike. Because the truth isn't that it's hiding. The truth is, it's always been with you, waiting for the moment you stop paying attention. Story 5. Thumbs Up. A Friend's Visit. I've always been a fan of ghost stories. I enjoy reading them and sharing the creepiest ones with my friends. But as you can imagine, I eventually ran out of stories to tell. One day, by chance, I ran into an old friend. He was famous among our circle for knowing countless ghost tales. It had been ages since we last met, and as we got caught up in conversation, a sudden downpour began. I invited him back to my place to wait out the rain. We sat and chatted for about half an hour. True to his reputation, he shared several eerie stories, each one sending chills down my spine. After a while, he glanced at his watch and said he had to go. I walked him downstairs and to the front door. That's when he stopped and said, almost offhandedly, "Your girlfriend doesn't seem to like me much, huh?" "Wait, what?" I blinked, completely confused. "What are you talking about? I don't have a girlfriend." He looked at me, equally confused. "The woman in the kitchen," he said. "When I walked in, she was standing there, staring at me like I wasn't welcome. She kept pacing in and out of the room while we were talking. A chill ran down my spine. I live alone." I laughed nervously, trying to brush it off. "Come on, you're just messing with me," I said. He shrugged, smiled, and walked away. Home alone, or not. When I went back upstairs, I checked the kitchen. It was empty, of course. I walked through the whole apartment just to be sure. Nothing seemed out of place. At first, I was spooked, but as the minutes passed, I began to laugh at how ridiculous the whole thing was. My friend must have been trying to scare me. Then the doorbell rang. The second visit. It was him again, standing at my door, looking oddly serious. "Did you forget something?" I asked. "No," he replied. "I just came to see you." "But we just talked," I said, confused. His face darkened. "Oh, so, he's already been here. What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. He sighed and leaned against the doorframe. "Sometimes people tell me they see something. A ghost that looks just like me. It shows up at random places, random times. It's harmless, though. It doesn't seem to do anything bad. And it never appears to the same person twice, so you don't need to worry." I didn't know what to say. Harmless or not, I couldn't shake the thought of my friend sitting in my apartment earlier. Was it really him? Or was it something else, watching me, pretending to be someone I knew? Story 6. Thumbs Up. The Sailor Without Two Coins. The sea has always been both a friend and a foe to sailors. No matter how brave or seasoned they are, they all know the unforgiving nature of the ocean. Before embarking on any voyage, sailors would utter prayers to God, asking for safe passage. But even the most devout knew that prayers were not always answered. Many had gone to the depths, swallowed whole by the ocean, never to be seen again. Some sailors, however, spoke of a way to cheat death in those moments. a ritual whispered from one desperate mariner to another. It was not a ritual they were eager to use, for it came with a cost no one wanted to pay unless their lives hung by the thinnest of threads. The ritual itself was simple. If a sailor found themselves sinking, the ocean's roar drowning out their cries for help, they could shout into the abyss, "Devil, take my soul, for God has abandoned me." They must repeat this plea 3 times, putting every ounce of their soul into the words. If they did, the ferryman, the mysterious boatman of the underworld, would appear, regardless of the storm or the chaos of the waves. He would grasp the sailor's wrist and pull them aboard his small, ancient vessel. On the ferryman's boat, the sailor would find an eerie calm. The waves would no longer rock them. Hunger and thirst would vanish. All they would feel was the rhythm of their own breath and the cold, salty wind against their damp face. But there was one rule. Never look the ferryman in the eyes. The bargain. Calling upon the ferryman was a trick. He wouldn't take a soul to the underworld for free. Once aboard, he would lean close, his breath cold as death itself, and whisper his demand. Payment. The sailor would need to respond immediately, claiming they had no coins with them but would retrieve the fee from home. If the ferryman believed them, he would steer the boat toward the shore, letting them step onto dry land. From that moment, the sailor would be safe, so long as they never returned to the sea. But there was a catch. The ferryman's gaze was sharp, unyielding. If the sailor dared meet his eyes, he would see through their lies. In an instant, they would be dragged back into the water, their soul lost forever. For those who escaped, the ferryman would wait. He never forgot a debt, the unbreakable debt. There was one sailor who cheated the ferryman this way, reaching the shore with trembling legs. He muttered his thanks, promised to return with the payment, and stumbled away from the sea, swearing to never look back. For years, he kept his promise, living far from any coastline, refusing to even look at a fishing boat. But time is cruel. As the man grew older, the sea's call faded, replaced by a new fear. At night, as he lay in bed, he began to feel the grip on his wrist again, a cold, skeletal hand tightening its hold. In his dreams, he saw the ferryman's face, twisted with rage, staring at him from the edge of the shore. The tighter the grip became, the harder it was to breathe. The man's days became filled with dread. Every shadow seemed to whisper of the debt he had not paid. Every sound of running water reminded him of the ocean. He feared death, not because he feared the unknown, but because he knew exactly what awaited him. And one night, he did not wake up. The ferryman's patience. They found his body twisted in bed, his face frozen in terror. On his wrist, faint bruises formed the shape of a handprint. No one knows how long the ferryman will wait. Days, months, even decades. But he always collects. The sailors who dared to summon him learned the hard way. You can never truly outsmart the ferryman. He is more patient than you can imagine.